All right, welcome to episode 192. I can't believe we're that far at this art check business. And we're rocking a 48-hour art check. Yeah, and honestly, it's pretty impressive. I was thinking it might just be me having Scott sub in because Corey's quarantined, but Corey is hardcore and is going to try to rock through. But if you guys notice Corey disappear at any point in time, just know
there's good reason.
He's here in spirit.
I'm here in spirit and in the bathroom physically. That's probably what's
happening. That should be a t-shirt. So all right, so let's dive into it. So let me find that banner business. Trying to do what Corey usually does so well. Okay, so let's talk about progress so far.
Oh, do we want to do our animated intro?
I just go to that. Okay, ready, guys?
Let's do it.
We're actually, the progress is okay.
I was doing this because it was like, it seemed like kind of like a Rocky vibe to the music.
It is. It really gets me pumped up. I'm glad we have our intro back. I'm glad we made that happen. All right. So let's dive into it. Oh, Victor's in the chats. Hey, Victor.
How's it going?
All right. So let's dive in. Let's start with you, Corey.
Okay.
What did you get done? Other than horrible horror.
I feel like the best thing I've done is I've made it this far in life. I'll talk about most of that during challenges, but I've been mostly unconscious for the last 3 or 4 days. So today I did get notice that oh no, that's the wrong one. I did get notice that my short is an official selection of the official selection of the DC Independent Film Festival, which is the longest running independent film festival. I was really excited about that one, and I was hoping I got it. It was actually a little bit higher of a fee than I normally like to pay for that, but I was pretty stoked about it. So that one's cool, and I had a thing, but it didn't upload. And then I also have 15 rejections. I'm up to 15 now, which I think brings me to just a little about 40 something percent success rate. So I've dropped below half. And then I've been working on, I've been able to get, okay. I just want to make sure I can share this without divulging any information here. There we go. So I've been working on some logo for a client, and so I've got. I just thought it might be interesting to show people kind of like my process. So this would be what I would consider like a more formal sketch. Mm-hmm. So I do like rough pencil sketches, and then I kind of do some digital like explainer sketches if needed. And so this is a logo that I'm working on. And then I did actually turn in like a full logo that he originally liked the sketch, and then once he saw it in color, he didn't like it. And so good dude though, because he didn't mind paying the change order on that. And so this is the first finished one that I gave him. And so anyway, yeah, so that's most of what I've gotten done. It's not a ton, but I've been mostly unconscious. So
yeah,
there's that. And then there's also just a ton of those sketches and stuff that I showed, I think, before, where there's some of these, and a lot of, I don't know, there's just more of these, but yeah. So that's it.
I think that's actually really helpful. I always try to kind of explain that to especially people who are coming straight out of school, where it's like your thumbnails for yourself and your roughs for yourself versus your roughs for your client usually are a little different.
Yeah.
Because for the client, you're kind of getting a lot closer to finish than you would for yourself most of the time. Because, you know, you have to help them be able to see your vision.
Yeah, or you end up explaining it way too much in text.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be like this, but imagine, well, it's like, just draw it.
Mm-hmm. And what Corey and I always talk about on here, which is like, you know, when you're freelancing, like it really helps if you can mitigate people's feeling of risk. And so like that in itself, like having really tight thumbnails, like a clear vision in your thumbnails really eliminates a lot of that like feeling of risk for a client. So yeah. That's cool. I think very informative.
This is a good example. This guy's pretty cool. And it's a good example of just not being scared of a contract. Like, you know, I showed him the contract and then I didn't hear from him for like 6 weeks. And I thought the contract scared him off. And then he came back 6 weeks later and was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. And I'm glad I had the contract because he approved something and then changed his mind. And since he read the contract and I explained it, and it wasn't a fight, there wasn't a big deal. It was just like, yeah, no, it's cool. I get it. I'm a businessman. So I was like, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, better clients are going to pay you for your time. People who are kind of hesitant about paying somebody for work, you got to question whether you should work for people like that. So that's cool.
People can't afford it, and they're going to have to deal with, I don't want to say lesser designers, but designers that are a little bit more unproven and a little bit riskier. That's just part of you get
what you pay for.
You pay for, and you get less risk with more money. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. So Scott, what all did you accomplish in the last period since our last?
Oh man, since yesterday, I mean, I got a lot. I think I got a lot done, and there's probably more than it's even on here. But like, I don't know, like yesterday, I mean, I must. When I woke up, I went jogging, and once I got back, I think I worked all day, just mostly on video stuff. I mean, I shot 2 more episodes of Making Comics 101, and then I edited those 2 episodes, everything but the B-roll. And today I ended up filming that B-roll, so I gotta drop that stuff in.
Nice.
I also shot, edited, and uploaded a premiere episode, and premiered an episode. It's basically like an introduction to Making Comics 101 that I just premiered today. So basically answering questions, talking about what the course is about and everything like that. So far it sounds like people are excited. My thing is like, it takes so long to do these videos that I keep pushing other stuff like my digital products and things that I probably should be concentrating on, because those are, more likely to earn money at least, I mean, but then again, the videos are hopefully going to help sort of, build awareness of the channel, hopefully help the channel grow. We'll see. Cause right now I mean, it's still, things are dropping. So I don't know if it's like a weird, if it's a certain time or what's going on with YouTube, but I'm hoping this will help kind of rejuvenate everything and bring it back, because people seem like they're excited for it. So
I can't imagine that isn't going to just do gangbusters for you. I mean, it's been received really well, and I think
people are sharing it. I asked people to share it. People have been sharing it online and stuff. So yeah.
I mean, you had a ton of comments. You had a ton of on the live chat. I mean,
and you got to give it a little time, because there's people like me, like I'm halfway through, because I literally, like, my first moment where I can internet is like pretty much like 10 minutes before we go live.
Yeah. Well, the last one, the trailer did really well, I think, because it was so short. But as I kind of explained in these videos, I mean, even if I do these, each one's going to be most likely under 30 minutes around that time. But even if I cut, and there's going to be the regular episode, the one that's edited and everything, and then just sort of an exercise, like a bonus exercise. And under each one of those topics. But even with that, you can't learn. I mean, you're not gonna. I mean, you've got to go further. I mean, I'm trying to put all the basics out there, but learning comics is like it's there's a lot involved in it. So people kind of want quick videos a lot of times. Like sometimes you get comments like 30 minutes, and I mean, if I get that comment now, it's like, you know what? I think maybe comics isn't right for you.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, like, college courses too take a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that's particularly because like you can condense information into short bits, but when it comes down to it, like, there's a lot of people who say, like they'll be like, well, logic's all based on Occam's razor. Like whatever can be simplest is most likely the quickest and correct answer. But then if you talk to like a biologist and you're like, yeah, the answer is this is just a table. They're like, no, that's not a table. There's so much to like a giant chunk of wood that gets complicated. And so it's like, if you want to get into the weeds and actually learn science, you're not going to be able to just rest on like, well, that's a table. Like that. Yeah. You're going to have much more complicated things. And same thing, if you want to learn comics, there might be some hucksters online who will like pitch like, this is how you do comics in 5 minutes. But I think Scott, from what I gather from what even the introduction that I've watched so far, it sounds like you're going to get as comprehensive as possible within that short amount of time of 30 minutes, and that to me, I think that's going to, if you guys who are watching this, like check that out and follow along, I think you'll gain a lot more than you will from somebody who's like, here's the 10 steps to succeed in comics, in 5 minutes on a video. And I think it's cool what you're doing. I second what Corey's saying. It's like I can't imagine it not doing well, because I think you're going to offer a lot for people. So
yeah, that's the plan. So we'll see. But let's see what else. So also I shot a video for my patrons that I'll be uploading soon, for like a drawing for a artwork. And Corey, nice. Actually, Corey's not in that drawing because it's only for $5 and up, patrons.
Oh.
But anyway, so let's see. What else did I do? I pretty much put together, composed, and I sent out a newsletter. And that one, if you're on my newsletter, make sure that doesn't go to spam, because there is a free demo font in there, one of my new fonts. So definitely, seek that out if you're on my newsletter. If it goes to spam, you want to check that out. And I think there's something on there where you can okay it so it won't go to spam anymore. But anyway, so yeah, I sent that out. I also did another, like one of those bonus exercise videos. Just a lot of video stuff. And, nice. I've been keeping up on the exercise, been jogging and everything, and I'm back down to almost, got 1 more pound to get back down to the weight that I was at before the holidays and stuff. So, but I'm gonna let you guys talk, because I hear some crunching and my dog is chewing on something and I'm afraid of what it is.
So while Scott's dog misbehaves and eats half of his artwork, so what I got done so far is just basically the chapter break for part 1. So that's done, lettered, and then I've also lettered the end page, and then started the very beginnings of the author page. So it's not like I'd show it, but it's not all that exciting to look at this point. So I kind of don't feel like people will get too much from seeing it till it's up. So. But the chapter page is up on quarterlystories.com right now. And then aside from that, I've been completely swamped. Well, we'll get into that, challenges and stuff. So, but I haven't been quarantined. So I have a feeling when it comes to challenges, I think Corey's gonna win the the challenge off. So let's talk about that. Corey, what is? Ooh, well, I'll hold it off for a second. So what's your challenge been?
I was tested positive for influenza strain B because we didn't get our flu shot this year, and so all 4 of us are quarantined in our house while we wait this out. Yeah, it's just I've been sick for about a month, and I think I've gotten just a number of different things in a row. But yeah, I just that's been mainly it. So normally I take some NyQuil and I sleep it off and I'm good to go. But I've been traveling a lot, and so I wasn't able to do that. And when I came back, I tried to do that, and I didn't sleep a wink. And then I kind of rotated between like an armchair and like propped up in my bed for about a day and a half. I don't know. It's all kind of a blur, but all 4 of us are sick, and it's been a little miserable. So, but we're doing okay. I mean, our neighbors are pretty cool. Like, had a dude come over and bring us Gatorade and saltines, and somebody else made us soup.
Do you have a hazmat suit?
They leave it on the doorstep. So we keep getting not keep getting. That's happened a lot, but it's happened twice. We get a text. I'm gone, but get on your doorstep. You've got whatever. Like somebody brought my wife a dirty Diet Coke, just left it on the doorstep. So anyway, it's a nice small community and people are cool. So, but
in California, if there's a strange package that's not from Amazon on your door, you basically just call the police.
In Idaho, you know who it is.
Yeah. So, no, it makes sense.
Anyway, but yeah.
Wow. Man,
so that's my challenge mainly.
That's intense.
Yeah, and then
and tough with when it's all of the family. Like that's
right.
It's a whole world of difficult,
Well, yeah, my wife and I are like trying to stagger when we're awake,
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I got to take a nap, so then I'm with the kids, and then until I can't do it anymore, and then I wake her up and she's with them, and yeah, so it's it is what it is, and it sucks, and it'll be over soon. So,
well, once again, Corey, you are crazy dedicated to keep doing the 48-hour heart check in rain or shine. All right, well, Scott, what are your challenges?
Well, first I'll kind of show you what my dog decided to eat. So apparently she either really hates or really loves this picture of her that my mom gave me for Christmas, because she chewed it up. She was sitting there chewing up this picture. So yeah.
Well, it just gives the frame more sentimental value.
Yeah. So anyway, so basically, I guess my challenge is that video takes a lot of time, because like I said, I felt like super productive yesterday. I did a bunch of stuff, so I figured today I would be able to concentrate more on some of the other stuff. But then, I had a couple errands and stuff, and then just basically I had to go back and watch those 2 videos to figure out what kind of B-roll to shoot. And basically when I do the B-roll, I'm really nervous about taking like video clips from stuff that probably copyright or whatever, but I figure I'd be safe if I just take my own footage of like books I have and stuff like that and film that. So that's kind of what I've been doing is trying to figure out, what comic can I actually film or whatever. So basically figuring all the stuff that I need to film, or just stuff with me like working on something or whatever, and then basically shoot all that. So I've got all that footage, and now I've got to edit all that in. So, but yeah, it just takes a lot of time. So again, it's like, I don't know, hopefully I'm not wasting my time on all this stuff when I could be working on some other stuff. And the other thing is right now, just everything's kind of uncertain for me, because like basically my biggest client that, pays for the majority of my bills is still sort of up in the air. He's like on vacation now, and I don't know what he's planning on doing when he gets back. So yeah, I've been like living super Spartan just in case, I don't, so basically I went and bought some groceries and, some dog food and stuff like that. And other than that, I'm not really going anywhere. So I have to get gas. So just in case, cause I don't, I got to stretch what I have if it comes down to that. So anyway, so hopefully I'll know more soon, and then I'll be able to either, not worry so much. And I'm trying not to worry just by getting into, more into my work and stuff. But yeah, that's sort of a challenge. So, but yeah, those are my challenges. So.
Yeah. And that can be freelance or in-house, like those kind of things. And it's not a bad practice to kind of try to stretch thin anyway.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And I'm not bad at that, but and then because my other stuff, I've got some other income sources that are coming in, but it's just I was hoping, I didn't know that I wasn't planning on putting all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to build this other stuff up. So I'm looking 100%. Into some other things right now. But again, all this stuff takes time. It's not like you can just start it and immediately income starts coming. You got to build inroads and everything. And I'm finally starting to make something with that with my digital products. Yeah. So now I'm looking at other ideas too. But of course, if I spend so much time with all these videos, I'm not having time to build those other products. So
yeah. It's funny. Somebody I know that I was talking to last week was talking about trying to build freelance because they'd worked in house for a long time, and they're trying to kind of build a base for freelance. And I was kind of explaining to them what your day should be if you're freelancing, especially when you're starting. And when I was saying like 4 to 5 hours, that's when you send out queries. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah. You're the sales guy. Like, so you got to get clients, because and they're like, well, I have 2 base clients. And I'm like, that's not going to cut. Like, you got to constantly be putting out queries and stuff. And it was interesting just hearing, like, walking them through the whole logical process of kind of establishing freelance and some of the uncertainty in it. But I did end up telling them also, like, it's not like your office was ever uncertain. Like, it's never certain. Like, that's the whole kind of thing that to me has always been a comfort when I've been freelance. And honestly, when I'm full time, it's a good reminder, like every once in a while to be like, this is not necessarily forever, So yeah, but I think that's cool. The video so far just seems like excellent. So I don't want to give too much feedback till I've seen the whole thing, but so far, like the editing and it's super
yeah,
cool.
That's just, the one I just put out there wasn't a whole lot of editing. Like actually one thing, Corey, even at any tier as a patron, I'm probably going to release the first episode early, like maybe Wednesday. So I don't know if you'll have time to watch it, but anyone that's a patron will get to preview that early. And if you are a patron and you do see that early, just give me your input. Some of those videos are already shot, so it's not like I can really course correct or change things, but it'd be good to know moving forward and just see what people think about it. So
yeah. Cool. For me, the challenges have been I'm at this weird point that happens in most corporate environments where we're in like review season. So I'm having to write and draft reviews and read self-evals. And on top of that, we're also kind of chasing a couple large clients that are kind of on the fence. So we're having to create these giant presentations. And at the same time, I'm having to edit video and stuff for my work, and it's due in like a really short time frame. So like it's been very taxing, a lot of overtime, and very rewarding because it's like I know it's going well, but it's just that on top of just kind of trying to stay motivated on my own stuff has been an interesting challenge this week, because my brain is like, it's taking me like twice as long to get things done, because my brain is, I'm having less of an easy time just kind of leaving work at work and clocking out or whatever. And that's something I've trained myself to do. I had to, like when I was freelance, I trained myself to do that pretty well too, because it's like otherwise you'll just always work, and that's what I used to do all the time, and then I saw that the bad health effects and stuff of that. But I am seeing that creep back, like a little bit of difficulty shutting off the day job stuff, and so that's been an interesting challenge that I don't know if I've quite overcome, because today has been very much a similar kind of mode of like a lot of stresses of deadlines and stuff like that, like kind of looming over what I'm doing.
You also got to cut yourself a break, because what you're doing is soul sucking right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like art direction is cool most of the year, but like it's the reviews, and like every once in a while you just get a note from like the C-suite that's like, hey, defend the job of everyone on your team.
Yeah.
So that, you just end up not doing anything but paperwork and thinking about paperwork for days on end. It's crushing.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's really essential, and it's some of the best advocacy you can do for your team, you know, or for the people that you lead is during this season. So it's like, it also like the stakes are fairly high if you care about the people you're kind of managing and stuff. So that's been interesting. Although it was interesting today because I was just saying this to somebody at my job, but it's like one of the things that I like about this is I've done design, and I've been like the type A designer, illustrator, like getting in design annuals, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that, but I kind of know it, and it's mysterious and it's challenging, but it's like I know the game a little bit. The people game is just this weird conundrum that keeps me really interested, because it's never dull. It's always interesting. It's always adventurous. But I do think it's interesting. It's a challenge to kind of keep at it, because it is also very taxing. And I mean, you know, I think it's the same in any leadership, with whether it's, you know, teaching or honestly, like even online communities, like leading an online community can be tough, because you're going to get, you know, bad comments, and like you can't please everyone. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, I think, inevitably. But there is this like kind of code to try to crack in leadership that I think is fascinating, and kind of akin to like comics, where you're never really gonna fully understand it. Like you just kind of get a little better at it, and then the second you get better, there's a new problem to solve. And,
yeah.
But like much like comics, it's like, because it's a hard problem, it can kind of consume your brain, and like and so it's very, like for me, I'm realizing I need to remember to kind of keep that balance, you know. But it's hard to do. Yeah. So
yeah.
that was boring, but but that was my challenges. So yeah, I don't think we had much of a topic, and we are going to kind of keep this one a little shorter, because I think you know. But is there anything in that you guys wanted to kind of get into or riff on, like from what we've discussed? I think we were talking at the top about potentially bringing up, there's a lot of interesting, crazy things happening in the world right now, and generally, like, that's always the case.
Yeah.
And so kind of weathering that is, and carrying it on, whether it be like, you know, Corey's situation where you're like, you know, like you're literally told you can't leave your house, or, you know, or like an entire continent on fire, There's just insane things that kind of happen, and there's this interesting kind of balance between wanting to be informed and like know what's going on, so you're not like blindsided by things, but at the same time also weathering weird things that are happening that are kind of outside of your control. And so like as artists, like how do we kind of approach that? Did I do that in too long-winded of a way, Corey? Basically, when things suck, you know,
how do you move forward when everything's falling apart?
Yeah.
I think one thing that is helpful to understand is everything's always falling apart, and just I think we're more or less aware of it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when I get overwhelmed with something, politics or whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to take a break from that. It helps, but it's not like anything went away, you know? And so for me, you know, I look at like, you know, what can I actually do? Mm-hmm. And then I make an effort to not spend too much mental power beyond that. So for example, like I can't control, you know, members of state that are making huge decisions and whatever. And so a lot of the time I figure, all right, what do I need to know to be able to do what I can do? And then beyond that, I don't need to know it. It's not, you know, I've grown old and tired of the consumptive nature of fear mongering. And it's on both sides of the aisle where, you know, they're just everybody is selling terror. Everyone is selling panic. Everyone is selling outrage. And it's because people don't think rationally when the lizard brain kicks in. And so if you think that you're running for your life, you're going to do whatever the most credible person tells you to do without really thinking that much.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that. So I tend to remind myself of that. Like if my life isn't in like a current imminent threat, then I can take time to make a decision. You know, I can, you know, do I need to solve this problem right here? This problem that's systemic, that's been around for centuries, you know? No. Can I do some things in my day-to-day life? Yeah, definitely. And I do those, and then I try, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, to move on past that. You know, I mean, like with it boils down to this as well. Like I'm super sick. I'm sicker than I've been in a long time. And I went to the doctor and I took the medicine that he gave me, and I'm getting as much rest as I can. And then beyond that, there's nothing else I can do. So I'm going to do the things that I want to do. I'm going to get to work on my freelance projects. I'm going to try to move forward on some of my things. And that's it, you know? And so it seems overly simplistic to say that, you know, because it doesn't take into account anxiety and depression and, you know, mentally spinning out and stuff. But like, ultimately, I have a whole lecture on this, but like, consider the lilies is something that is mentioned in the Bible. It's a really interesting thing, however you feel about the Bible, but the Savior's talking, and he says, you know, consider the lilies, how they grow. And if you think about that, you know, he does this whole thing, right? He does this whole thing about Solomon, who's like the richest person that the Jews could think of, and saying like the lilies look way better than anything he was able to do, and they don't toil or spin or whatever, you know, they're not. And so if you look at that, like there's stuff that the lilies can control and there's stuff they can't control. They can't control whether or not it rains. They have zero control over that. There's stuff that's just way above their pay grade. They can't control where their seeds fall. They can't control whether the sun comes up. They can't control the nutrient content of the soil. But there is some stuff that they can control. They can control if they're pointing at the sun when it's in the sky. They can control whether their leaves are growing. They can control whether they have a sufficient enough root system to be able to take the rain when it comes. And I kind of think that that's just a good way to look at life is you get your leaf and your root system as good as you can. And then you'll be ready for the opportunity when it comes. And you'll be prepared for drought when it comes. And you can't control either of those things. You can just control your skills and your abilities to be able to take those things on as they come or don't come.
Yeah.
And beyond that, the last verse in that little bit is sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, which is basically like there's enough crap out there that you don't need to add to it by freaking yourself out. So, let the morrow take thought for itself, whether you're into the Bible or not, I think that's decent advice, and it's lasted the centuries. And so, tomorrow's going to come. It's going to come with all the crap that it's going to come with, and I don't need to add to it by freaking myself out. But if there's an opportunity there, if some rain's going to fall, I can grow a root system now. I can expand my leaf base so that I can kind of take that on. So that's kind of how I take it.
Yeah. What about Scott? What about you? What's your way of weathering?
Right now. Right now, just kind of to shut off, basically shut out negative energy, and it's in some ways it's a struggle, not because I want negative energy, but I also, I want to know what's going on in the world, and I don't want to have my head in the sand. But, I was just listening to a podcast today, and they were saying how, artists were being accused of being too political in their art or making a statement, but really, and the response was, that's what art is. I mean, you can't tell an artist not to have an opinion on something. I mean, that's basically what art is doing. You're expressing your opinion in a creative way and everything. And so yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. I understand that. If I don't, to the point where, sometimes if you aren't, doing that with your artwork, it's kind of like, well, you're just kind of, either you're trying to please the masses, and if you try to please everyone, you're not pleasing anyone, and that type of thing. And I definitely understand that, but I don't know. It just seems like, at least right now, that's all like, I don't know. I'm trying to shut that kind of stuff off, because the other side of the coin is, I'm happy people are out there with their, obviously I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech and getting your opinion and putting it out there, especially artistically and all that stuff. But I think there's also some validity to just an escapism, and not having any drama or anything heavy, and just, sometimes people, it's just as good for people to get, not only is it good for people to get involved in things they believe in, but sometimes just escape all this other stuff and just find entertainment and be entertained. So I think you need both. And right now I'm kind of going with just sort of the entertainment aspect, and just trying to put out stuff that hopefully, everyone can appreciate, and it's not too heady or anything like that. And that's just, at least for my, right now in my life. I mean, I stopped watching any like political YouTube channels and things like that, and all that kind of stuff, just because it was, I just found that it was making me more upset. So, I just kind of had to, at least for right now, because I've got other kind of fish to fry and other things to worry about, that I don't want to worry about that. I mean, obviously, if there's something major, like you said, Australia is sort of on fire, and I mean, I want to know about that, and other things that are going on, but to a certain extent, I don't know.
Yeah, but you know about it to what end though?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if the end result is merely you freak yourself out or you have a bad day or you just absorb more negativity, what good is that? That's no good, so it's a waste of time.
Yeah. So like, to me, I kind of agree with both of you. I mean, it's funny too, like Corey bringing up Bible stuff. Even what Scott's saying is in the Bible, but it predates the Bible.
I think
so
everything's in the Bible.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
it's all there.
It's old knowledge that even predates the Bible, but it's like the idea of fixing your thoughts on good things is a pretty good solution to like, to issues, because basically if you fall in a hole, right, and you just sit and think about the hole you just fell in, it doesn't do a ton of good.
Yeah.
But if you sit and you assess the situation, you're like, I'm in a hole. All right, how do I get out? Like, I think there's constructive ways of analyzing kind of a crap situation, and then there's negative ways, and I think the big tell in that is there a solution that you can make action towards?
Yeah.
If there isn't, then I think it's kind of wasted thought. Like, if it's just complaint or negativity with no solution attached, or it's a solution that requires other people and there's no action you can take, then it's kind of fantasy thinking at that point. Maybe gear that fantasy towards writing, where you get to control characters, right? So I agree. I think I've had times in my life where I've gotten so into like politics and things that are happening outside and listening to too many political talk shows and stuff to where I've become toxic.
Yeah.
It's happened in the past. One thing, like I even mentioned this on our last Artcasters, that I'm aiming for next year is to be more active in ways I can be active. So if I read a story about politics that bothers me, to think about what is something I can do locally that's an action that could actually impact that in a positive way. And if not, if there's nothing local that I can do about it, then I kind of don't want to think about it, or talk about it. So,
well, and there's huge power in action, I mean, 100%. So you donate $10 to some organization that helps Australia. Like, you haven't solved the problem, but you helped, and you're going to reap the benefit, whether you consider like the universe, or karma, or your own personal self-actualization or whatever. There's going to be psychological benefit to action.
Yeah. And I mean, $10 towards it at least has a better shot of doing more about the problem than like sharing it on Facebook, and
Slack division.
Yeah. So to me, that's kind of the thing that I'm hoping for this year for myself. And like, once again, I do think it's good for, people if they read things that are upsetting. Like, for instance, we're in a democratic republic, right? So if you read something, because we have the power to vote, if you read something about your current government in a government like we live in, there's a little bit of almost an onus on us to call out if our representatives or whatever aren't representing the people. Yep. So that's like on one side of the coin. There's also like a side of the coin that's like I said, there's no solution. There's no angle to it. There's no real action to make any changes. Maybe it's just like kind of creating your own negative energy that you can kind of feed on. I don't know. It's a thing that I have seen where a lot of people like to not take any action and then kind of complain about sort of the scenario as it is. And to me, that's I think that's more where it gets into that toxic area. And honestly, I'll admit to being vulnerable to that. Like there are times where I'll read something in the news or see something happening in the world, and I'll have an instant reaction of just like, well, I want to complain about that. You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, kind of going into this year, one thing I've realized is that doesn't do much good. The weird thing is too, I've finally gotten to the age where I'm seeing things cycle, and that's been interesting. Where a lot of what I'm seeing now is like a repeat of stuff I saw 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was almost predictable. Like it's so that's an interesting thing too, tying into what I guess we're talking about, where I think one of the ways to weather this stuff too is to kind of stick it out, because weirdly enough, with age, you gain kind of wisdom. And so you start seeing the cycles of scenarios, you know, whether it's personal dramas or external dramas just in the world in general. You start seeing this loop where it's like things recur in kind of disturbing ways, but that actually helps with like kind of acceptance of those things, because once again, like when you're not really basically going to punch a volcano. like if a volcano is going to erupt where you live, it's going to erupt, and there's not much you as an individual can do to kind of create that, like cause that to stop. You know, there might be collective things that you might be able to do to help curb it and create less of an issue, but at the end of the day, like there are things outside of our control. Same with artists. I mean, like as artists, you can learn every trick in the book. You can get as good as you can possibly get. You can become an excellent illustrator, and there's still like that stuff that's out of your control. Like you can't necessarily control whether like the art director at Scholastic's going to open your query letter, you know, or whether your client's going to stick around. Like maybe your client puts out a great product, but like the market shifts and what they put out just dies, and then you have no client.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that are outside of our control. So to me, it's like, it's more of like trying to focus on the things that you can control and accept the things you can't, which totally sounds like AA or something, but it's a truism, but it's, you know, a lot of the time when people talk about truisms or kind of cliches, like there's truth to them, which is why they've stuck around for so long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I do think, you know, we do risk in talking about this, like oversimplifying, because each person has like a unique experience. So it's one thing to tell someone, like for instance, like you know, if you've had somebody die that's like close to you or whatever, it's one thing to like kind of go through it and then hear from other people like, well, I've lost someone and here's how I dealt with it. Right.
Yeah.
But it's another to be like in the thick of that and then be trying to kind of retain a semblance of reality while everything's kind of collapsing, because, you know, you can objectively know something is true, and yet at the same time, like, while those things might be true, it doesn't make them easy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like it just leapt a lot, but
no, it totally makes sense, because the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, you know, if I walk a path and then you're walking that path, like me telling you about my experience in that path can be helpful, but you still have to take those steps. You still have to walk that path.
Yeah.
You know, and so I always worry about this line of thinking and talking, because you know, it does feel kind of like a catch-all, but like if I just say like, hey, don't worry about it, and you're having a panic attack, it's not super helpful advice,
Yeah.
But like, if you're not experiencing, if your brain is allowing you to like logically process things, then it can be super helpful. But like everything else, there's definitely going to be, situations where it just doesn't help to say, well, just don't do that, or whatever. Anyway, yeah, I think, I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good to talk about all this stuff. It definitely helps me. I mean, for example, like I don't struggle with this as much as I used to, but imposter syndrome is like a legit thing in my life that I deal with often. And with me, it helps to understand those thoughts and categorize them.
Yeah.
And so if I can understand and categorize those thoughts, then I can empower myself to do all kinds of things, but if I don't understand what's going on, and I just think I really do suck and everybody else really is better than I am, and there's nothing I can really do about it, well, then that's not helpful thinking, right? But I mean, if somebody were to say, hey, listen, there's this thing called imposter syndrome and you probably have it. Well, that doesn't make those thoughts go away, but it does make it so that I can categorize them as not helpful. And that oftentimes is useful as well. So, I mean, if you can't help but freak yourself out, like sometimes just acknowledging that you're freaking yourself out can be really useful.
Yeah. And then I also think there's, this is going to get kind of strange, but I like getting strange, and we'll cap this pretty soon because we're almost at an hour. We're going to keep it short. But so one of the reasons I wanted to write about kind of like mental illness is to kind of destigmatize it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also think that one of the tough things about just reality in general is I think most people, I think that mental illness is more the norm than people like to admit. I think that like the idea of a human being who wakes up, faces no conflicts, has no concerns or anxieties, right? Just whistles through their day, like loves their job, right? Goes home to like a completely issueless family. I think a lot of that is pretty fantastical. Like, I don't know if that exists. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm speaking as a person who, like, I love my family. I generally love my job. I generally am pretty happy, but there's things that come up. And I think that sometimes like there's a narrative that's presented to people of like the idea of like, if you follow these steps, then you will avoid all conflict. Or if you're having any sort of struggle with like the external world, it's because you're not working out enough, or you're not drawing enough. Like I think we even have that a little bit, like sometimes where it's like, well, you're just not working hard enough on your art. You're not working hard enough on this stuff. If you just exercise enough and work hard enough, then all of these issues will disappear. I do think there's a bit of a relief to admitting like that's not always the case. Like, there are things like for instance, if you're working out a ton and you live in Australia in an area where there's an inferno right now that's creating its own thunderstorms and just doesn't look like it's going to cease. That's not because you didn't work hard enough. Like, that just sucks. And that just kind of happened. And actually, I think there's kind of a freedom in just kind of admitting that that's the scenario sometimes. Like, and I think that's part of embracing the things that are outside of your control. Like, sometimes it is completely outside of your control. And that's why you got to grasp at those little seeds and points that are in your control, because there's a whole ton that you have no say in as an individual. So the things you do have a say in, I think, have that much more value, right? Like, like for instance, with art, you don't get to have a say in how quickly you learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do have a say in how often you attempt to learn, but like how quickly you're going to absorb it, how quickly you're going to get that hand movement or whatever, isn't really in your control. And so like I do think just acknowledging that, like, that's kind of normal is I think can be a relief for people. I don't know if that makes sense, because I feel like the abnormalization of like mental struggles, at least when I was going through like crazy mental stuff, was very frustrating. You know, I think there's a disingenuousness to it, and it makes sense because there's a lot of companies making a ton of money selling an idea. You know, I'm totally rambling, but
no, Kayla has it right here. Social media has made it nearly impossible to ignore all of it. I have reduced my scrolling through social media apps simply because of how negative most of it has become. That is by design. Like, if you're freaked out and you don't know what to do, you want to try to figure it out. You want to try to learn more about it, right? Normally, when I come up against a problem, you know, I can work through it. I can learn about it. I can read about it. I can study it. I can do something, right? But like social media has made the outer reaches of the planet in your pocket, and so when you come up against a problem, there is something that you can do, but to a certain extent, like freaking yourself out by diving down that rabbit hole isn't it, you know?
yeah.
And yet the algorithms are specifically designed to freak you out, to piss you off, to give you anxiety, because that's the easiest way to get you addicted.
Yeah.
And they're selling eyeballs, right? And they're selling predictive behavior. And if they can predict that this group of people is going to react this way when they come across this information, they can sell that to someone, and that becomes valuable. You become a valuable commodity. Your predictable behavior becomes valuable. So
Yeah.
I would agree that another thing that you could do, and I've done this, is get on your phone, especially if you're on an iPhone. I don't know if there's an Android equivalent to this, but it seems to not be as good. But get on your phone and limit the number of hours that you spend on those apps.
Agreed.
And cap the time. So I noticed that I was spending like 90 minutes getting ready for work, and I was having to wake up earlier. And I was like, I don't like do anything. I just shower and shave and brush my teeth and eat breakfast, and that's it. Like, why is that taking so long? Turns out every morning I would get on Twitter and I would scroll forever, and then I would get on YouTube, and then I would, start listening to, the daily news and all this. And so like I was starting my day with all of this worry and anxiety and freak out about everything that's going on in the world. And so I just said, all right, I'm going to shut everything down except for like bare essentials, like text messaging, my alarm. Nothing else turns on until 11 a.m. until I'm ready to take lunch and, take a minute. And then it shuts down at the end of the day, around 9 p.m. And so I found, and then at certain apps, I've said, I want to be on this for less than 30 minutes a day. And so my phone pops up a little warning that says, hey, you've got a minute left. I'm like, all right, I put in my time. I don't need to do anything else. I think those types of things, intentional limiting behavior to stuff that is potentially toxic is good. It's like fire, like a little bit of fire is great. It helps you cook things. It can heat your house or whatever. But like, if you just stand inside the fire, you're just going to cook yourself to death. You know, like you got to have a contained, limited amount of usage of some of these powerful things. Without fire, you know, everything would be cold. You'd starve to death and you'd freeze, and it's not good. And so it's kind of that balance of what we've been talking about, being exposed to things enough so that you kind of know what's going on, but not so much that it's a detriment to you and that it's beyond your ability to act.
Yeah. And I do think there's this balance, right? Because there's beautiful art that's been made based on anger and anger and not blind anger, like righteous anger, has created some great artwork. There's also just like things for like staying in touch with the news where like there are things that happen that seem to just be like not touching you at all that have a direct impact on your industry.
Yeah.
So like for me, I have to know about the trade war because that directs my day job. Like my day job is directly affected by a trade war. And so like, but do I need to obsess about it? Like, is there anything that me obsessing about that is going to do to change that scenario? No. Can I donate to certain places that might be fighting that war? Yeah, great. So then I'll do that. Or can I support candidates that might fight that war? Great, I'll do that. Can I maybe repost every once in a while? Sure. If I find myself like going down a YouTube rabbit hole or like a news rabbit hole for like 10 hours, you know, like there's a line where it's like it can be positive, it can be motivational. You know, like another good example, you know, one of the most motivating things I think most artists I've met have heard from people is the jerk, like, and I'm sure you guys had it. I'm sure Corey, Scott, you probably had this at some point. I've had a few jerks in my life say, "You'll never be anything," and there's a few that I could name, and I'm not going to, but that I could name because it vividly sticks in my head that much because they drove me. Like the, oh yeah, like F you, like kind of feeling I got from that drove me to actually become better. So that's kind of anger, but it's turned positive to action. Now I do that less and less as I get older because I find that that's not the best fuel, but it can be fuel for great things. It's just like balancing it, you know, you know, I think balance is the tough part. And I think what we're addressing too, when you're like, you know, throwing a curveball and there's a scenario like Corey's in right now where like, dude, you're stuck at home. You don't get to choose. All you can choose to do is just kind of do the best you can within that scenario. And if you obsess about anything beyond that, what benefit is it, you know? So yeah. And honestly, if you're going to get into freelance or art, you got to start embracing uncertainty and you got to start embracing rejection. Like Corey, like the way your films turned out has gone so much better than I think you or any of us were projecting initially. And that's not because it's a bad film. It's just to even be at 46% with what he sent out was not what anybody, including Corey, was anticipating. Now, it doesn't mean Corey doubted himself or anything like that. It's just because that's a pretty good percentage. Like 46% is a crazy good percentage for like sending out to mass amount of things for awards. That's good. That's a good rate. Now, if you're somebody who's not going to embrace like the kind of uncertainty, 46%, that's negative. But you know, if you're an artist and you get into it and you start actually sending out stuff, like that's not a bad acceptance rate. That's a really crazy good one. To the point where now when Corey's announcing getting acceptances, it's kind of like, I forget which award this is. There's a couple, like there's quite a few. And that's a good scenario to be in. But if you let fear or like uncertainty, kind of, or rejection, like cripple you, then like, I don't know, Corey, you probably wouldn't be in this scenario where you're racking up that many awards. Because like the fourth rejection, you would have been like, "Bip, I'm out," and then you would have closed that door for all the potential good that's come from it,
And I think I don't know. I mean, I know it's not. My wife keeps teasing me that I'm not allowed to. She's like, "You're unrelatable. You're never going to be like one of those guys who says, you had hundreds of rejections before you had a success or whatever." But I also think. There's levels of success. I haven't sold the film rights or anything. You know what I mean? Like I'm still in the hole. Quite a bit of money. I haven't won. It hasn't netted me $1, but I did get 4 rejections in a row before I got my first selection.
There you go.
And then it's been about I get a couple rejections and a couple selections, and it kind of goes back and forth, and so it's an interesting little roller coaster, I guess. But yeah, it is what it is, and I've come to, I do still, just because I'm super cheap, whenever I get rejected, I do go look at the fee, the entrance fee for that particular thing, and I'm like, that's $4 down the drain, or that's $10 down the drain, or whatever, but it's really not, because you gotta put your quarters in to play the game. So, and sometimes you lose a few, but it's been an interesting ride. We didn't talk about plans.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We didn't actually hit plans. I'm such a bad 48-hour check host. Okay. Let's cap it with plans. So what are your plans for next check?
So I've
other
been doing,
than feeling better. You need to be feeling better by next check. Other than that.
Yeah, I don't think that's medically possible. Since next check is in a couple days, and I've got an incurable virus that is going to run its course in 4 or 5 days. But by a week from today, I should be good. But I've been doing these. I can't remember if I showed this on here yet or not, but like I've been doing these little kind of mini tutorial carousels on Instagram, where I kind of go through and do like a tiny little explainer of like how I'm making some of these animations and stuff. And so I plan to do another one of these. Maybe not by Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see, but definitely this week. I'll at least make some progress on that, and I will finish. I will finish the logo I'm working on. So those are kind of my two things.
Love it.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, one of my goals is you get something going on Instagram, either just working on some sort of templates or whatever, or, whether I do some carousel stuff. I'm not exactly sure. I want to tie it into 100 or making comics 101, whether it's like little, like you said, like little tips or, clips or something like that, or just shots of some of the artwork or whatever. I'm not sure, but that's one of the things I got to do. I got to get back to working on some of these digital products. And the other thing I want to do is at least apply for like an Amazon merch account. For all I know, I may already be accepted, because I think they may have been sending me stuff earlier. But because I've been doing a lot of research on that, and it might be oversaturated. But Amazon's such a huge market, and I've already got designs and everything. And from what I understand, it's sort of a slow build to start building stuff up. But I've been watching what some other people are doing. And you've got the guys, a lot of the people on YouTube that talk about it aren't designers. And sometimes a good idea will outweigh even the best design. But a lot of people are just like, oh, I go on Fiverr and hire an artist. And so I think I can do better. And I found one guy that is an artist. And one of the things that he was saying, he said it took him a number of months to get to where he is. But he said he doesn't have to really promote. He doesn't even put the stuff under his brand. He doesn't really have to promote it because Amazon's such a big, market. And the other thing that is intriguing to me is Amazon they really crack down on copyright infringement and stuff. So whereas in other areas, when you're competing with people who do fan art, I mean, it's really hard to compete because, I mean, that stuff just gets all the eyes because it's already got built-in audience and everything. So in some of those areas, it's hard to compete. Whereas this one, I wouldn't have to really compete with that. And because, I've got some of my original designs. So I'm going to look at trying to start getting some stuff up over there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that if I keep pursuing that. But at least I want to set up an account.
Have they improved their kind of theft of ideas?
That I don't know. I mean, as far as theft, I mean, as far as depending on like ripping off stuff whole cloth, or like a lot of time, one of the advice that they give is like kind of go on there, and if you see somebody with a good idea that's just executed poorly, just do a better design of it. I've heard people give that advice, which I'm not opposed to that really. I mean, yeah. So as far if that is considered theft, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot. If you get a good idea that sells, naturally people are going to start, doing something very similar, if not, taking the same phrase and doing their own version of it or whatever. But as far as ripping off your actual artwork, I don't know about.
Okay. I know that years ago it was a problem, but I mean, I haven't looked at it in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of advice I got when I was taking like intro to graphic design classes, like very early on. And I think it's great advice. It's like, if you're going to, as a student, like redesign like a movie poster or whatever, don't pick like a Saul Bass poster. Like, because you're not going to do better. Right. Like your poster will suck in comparison. Pick a poster that sucks and then just make it better, or find one that's like mediocre. It's okay that you can like up the ante, but like if you're going to recreate a movie, don't recreate a Hitchcock film.
Yeah, I heard that exact same advice on one of the videos. They were looking at a T-shirt and they said, "Yeah, this idea is great, and the execution is great. There's no way I wouldn't, if I was recommending on something, I wouldn't even bother because you can't improve on it really." So
like don't pick like Ollie Moss's stuff and then try to riff on it, because you're not going to beat Ollie Moss. He'll beat you every time. But there's just advice for students.
There's a lot of people out there in that space that they're good marketers, but I mean the designs are like crappy, and that's the majority of the people. And like I said, they're saying go to Fiverr. And again, when you're talking, and I don't want to get a whole Fiverr rant, but when you're talking about when they do crack down, because one of the main things they say is research, and because there's stuff that's trademarked. Like I think the phrase, I think they were saying that now somebody went and trademarked the phrase AF.
Oh,
so
how are they allowed to do that?
I don't know how, but they were saying, "Oh, I can't use this anymore." Somebody trademarked that, because I mean,
I swear the courts and the trademark right now are nuts.
Yeah.
That should be. I mean, there is a term. Now I'm going to rant. Never mind. There's a term called spontaneous phrase that is illegal. It's spontaneous something, spontaneous occurrence, spontaneous something. It's basically like you can't trademark it if it's ubiquitous.
Right.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though, like so really good example, and Corey will know this from the music industry, but there's also scenarios where it's like things like Fender invented the Stratocaster.
Yeah.
And then they made the mistake of trying to trademark the Stratocaster about 20 years after it already had hit. Yeah. So now they can trademark the headstock. Like, do not, like, if you're ever doing guitar designs, don't do the Fender headstock. But you can use that guitar shape and you can make a competitor guitar that's a Strat, because it had already hit the culture. And so like I'd imagine even in the AF scenario, sure, somebody might have trademarked it, but can they hold that trademark? I doubt it.
But they shouldn't have been able to trademark it. That's
Right,
the whole point of the trademark application.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of faulty trademarks that literally fall apart the second they go into court.
Yeah,
That's
and
my
it's just
point.
two
It's
letters, and whether it means what most people are using it for.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, you know. So I don't know how that works, but anyway. So there, I mean, there's stuff like that. So I forgot why I brought that up. But anyway.
I don't know, but it was a fun
to make
tangent.
me angry. That's
that's
what it was.
So cool. Yeah. So where were you going with that, Scott?
I wish I knew, because I did have a point to make.
Oh, you were talking about plans, and you were talking about getting a merch account on Amazon.
Right. Yeah, no, I know that, but there was something even more specific. The reason why I brought up the trademarking and everything. It was something about somebody had given some advice, and they basically, I said that they said they couldn't improve on it and everything. So I don't remember where I was going after that, but anyway. So yeah, I guess I want to look into the sort of the Amazon merch, and everything. But I like I said, I think a lot of people that are on there, I was at Fiverr. I was getting into Fiverr. But yeah, so it's the copyright thing, because every video you watch on it says the biggest mistake people make is they try to do something that's trademark. And there's certain things that you, like political figures, you can get away with, because for whatever reason, if you're a political figure, you can't really do anything. But certain celebrities, you can't do something. And like they were saying, there was a shirt that was like fiance, but it was like Beyonce, and Beyonce sued them and everything. And stuff like that. So, but the thing is, when you go to Fiverr, chances are those people are ripping stuff off and giving it to you. So if you're paying $5 for a design, chances are what you're getting back is probably something they stole from somebody else anyway. So you get into trouble like that. So, but with all these people recommending that, and every time I hear that, I just cringe. So I think, and judging by this other artist that I saw, who is, who's definitely a competent artist, but I think I'm definitely right in that range, if not maybe better or whatever, or got some better ideas, especially in the design area. I mean, guy looked like he was a good illustrator, but his graphic design not quite on point. But anyway, I think, if he's saying that he doesn't really have to really promote it just because Amazon promotes itself, because he's got a bit bigger following than me, and people were saying, well, do you have to drive your own traffic? And he said, I try to do that, and I can't drive traffic like Amazon does. So he just puts stuff up there, and he's got to do research and find out what certain niches are and stuff like that. But I don't know, it seems like it might be an area to go into. So
you're gonna do a bunch of Baby Yoda T-shirts?
No, you can't do Baby Yoda.
I know.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm totally kidding.
But
I love it.
So, but just like my mad science stuff. I mean, a lot of that stuff I think is well designed and everything. And
that's great.
And if I guess I don't know why I waited so long, because I'm on every other merch thing or T-shirt thing. So I don't know why I'm on Amazon if they've got the biggest market share. So
yeah.
But
I love it. Actually, that reminds me of books too. Like if you have books and they're not on Amazon, put them on Amazon. Because
I'm doing that too. I've got some of the stuff from my toolkit, because people were saying that they thought it was more like a physical thing, and obviously I can't do like put brushes and stuff like that or fonts in there. But there's other things like templates that I could probably put in the book and maybe put it on what is it, KDP Publishing. Yeah. So I'm going to look at that too. So. Yeah.
Cool. My goal is to finish the tight pen or the rough pencils for the, or at least have a good headway on them for the author page, and which is pretty exciting, because hopefully after that's done, I can get into like actually formatting the book and all that fun stuff. So, all right. We have gone a full episode's worth. So I coaxed Corey in with a short episode, and then he braved it through, and we've gone through a full episode. And it's partially because Corey, sick or healthy, likes to talk philosophy, as do I. So we fall into this trap of long rambles.
Yeah, next time we'll have to get Corey's rant on the trademark thing. So, because I think
that would be amazing. I'd love to get actually trademark and copyright would be fun to get into, and then parody would be interesting too.
Yeah.
We should do that not on the art check and just do a series.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be interesting to do, like copyright, trademark, intellectual property, fair use, all that stuff, like as it applies to visual creators. I think that'd be
and it would be, I don't want to say it would be largely opinion based, because I mean, I do know some of the facts, but obviously none of us are attorneys, so it can't be legal advice.
Yeah.
Right.
Salazar was saying you could do the panels as a book. I've gotten blank panel books on Amazon. It's totally true.
There's a lot of those on there, and they all look like they were done by somebody who has no idea what comics is, that they, so that's one of the things I'll probably be putting out. So yeah.
Oh, now you said your idea.
I didn't want to mention it just in case, but like I said, there's a bunch of it out there anyway, and it's just
Frank beat you to it.
It doesn't look, and a lot of it's for kids, but but still, there's no reason why kids can't have like professional
good ones,
templates and panels and stuff. So,
and kids know. I remember when I was a kid, if I picked up something that was like, it's a comic book, but it wasn't really comics, you just kind of know.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's wrap it. So you're on my channel, so you know where to find me. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell. That'll notify you when there's something about to go live. And then go to joshuakemble.com or quarterlystories.com. They both direct to the same thing. And Quarterly Stories starting to wrap up, so that should be pretty cool. Let's see. So
I was just I turned it off. I was going to put that
up there. That's good, Frank. That's really good. I actually copyrighted Scott Strickland, so I'm sorry, Scott. You can't use your name anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So, Corey, where can everybody find you before they trademark your name?
I've trademarked the G note, and so anybody that uses that in a song owes me royalties. And you can find out about that lie and other things that I've done at CoreyKerr.com. And go check out my Instagram. So you go to CoreyKerr.com and you can click on the web or whatever it's called. There's something that says something about me on the internet, and there'll be a link to Instagram. But go look at those things that I've been doing and leave a comment, because they've been fun to make. I don't know how many carousels I've made, but 5-ish. Anyway, go check them out. Especially if you're interested in like seeing how I make stuff for animation, because I'm trying to give little tidbits or whatever. So that's where I am. How about you, Scott?
Well, if you go to my Instagram, the newest thing you'll see is what I did on Inktober. So yeah, but hopefully that'll change. We'll see.
Inktober 1987.
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember until 1987. but yeah, so go to circworks.com, and definitely, if you aren't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you're subscribed but you haven't hit that bell, because you want to get some notifications, because I'm going to be premiering next Monday will be the premiere of the actual first episode of Making Comics 101.
Yeah.
And after that kicks off, there's going to be a lot of content coming from me in that regard. So yeah, definitely check that stuff out. Nice. And then for my Patreons, you're going to get it. For my patrons, you're going to get that probably Wednesday. You'll be able to see that before everyone else. So
I love it. And go to Scott's site right now and check out the introduction, because it gives a little bit of an idea of what's to come, and it's really good. It's like a little taste, not as edited, but awesome. And the editing was enough to impress me. So go check it out. Also,
there's a lot
Scott,
of
like,
editing because there's a lot of me saying ums and ahs, and I cut all that stuff out, and that's one of the things that takes forever. But
yeah, that is tough. If we did that with a 48-hour art check, we'd end up with 5 minutes of content. I'm kidding.
But it'd
All
be
right,
a killer 5 minutes.
it would be. All right. So speaking of murderous 5 minutes, we are going to call it. I don't know how that transitions, but just pretend it does. All right. We will talk to you guys. I guess Wednesday, if Corey's able, and then yeah. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the chats. As usual, you guys made it really fun and cool and engaged, and let us know in the comments section also like what you do to kind of deal with the outside crap, like when things are really shitty, whether it's in your own life or externally. How do you kind of balance that with being productive and making art? All right, we will talk to you guys on Wednesday.